is season 2, episode 8 of the What You're Thinking podcast. I'm Eric.
I'm Vince.
And we have another exciting show for you today. We're going to talk about a wide range of things, from Disney Plus canceling some classics due to stereotypes being played on, and as well as whether the mental health crisis is real and whether or not there should be classes given to aid students who struggle with that, as well as Texas opening up out of nowhere. So let's just get right into it.
All right, so for the first segment, we're going to do the hit the brakes or carry on topics. So for the first topic, we have, will NVIDIA's new graphic chip built for mining crypto make it easier to become rich? You want to hit the brakes or you want to carry on from that?
I would say carry on.
Okay, so we can carry on from that. And just to let everyone know, in case anyone is wondering what exactly that is, so basically, NVIDIA is a graphics company. They design chips, just like chips you find in like the PlayStation 5 or the Xbox Series S, Series X. And basically what it does, it has the power to compute graphics based on the output that it's receiving and give you the 4K image that you see or the 1080p picture that you see. So what people do for Ethereum or any type of cryptocurrency, they basically tweak the chip a little bit. So instead of focusing those outputs on 4K or 1080p, it's mainly focusing on the math equations needed to mine crypto for you. Because cryptocurrency is just a big math problem that's being ran from the server. So it basically breaks it down for everyone to kind of get those problems solved while they're at home, basically. And it does use a lot of power, obviously, because it's a chip that's mining that information for you. But in the long run, you're being allowed to receive cryptocurrency without paying actual money that you have.
That's convenient.
Just a little lesson for you on that. And so the next topic we have is Disney Plus right for restricting Peter Pan and Dumbo to kids under 7 years old because of racist stereotypes and undertones. You want to hit the brakes or you want to carry on from that?
We could definitely hit the brakes. I think that's a very interesting topic because you see, like, especially in 2020, everything with all the racial tension going on, how many things are being changed and spoken on and peeled back and all of that. So I was looking up this, and with Dumbo, there's controversy because like characters have blackface. Peter Pan, they refer to Native Americans as Redskins, and with the Aristocats, and one of them is there's like a chopstick people using chopsticks on the piano and keyboard and playing with, slanted eyes and all types of Asian racist stereotypes. Especially now with Asian hate going on, I can see why they're doing this. It's kind of like a double-edged sword, I feel like, because I say that because doing these things are like small efforts, just like when George Floyd died and they were painting Black Lives Matter on so many town streets, but like not really doing anything in terms of like reform. So yeah. I want to say this is doing nothing, but on that same token, the executive, the CEO of Disney currently can't just make all these laws in place like they're not a politician. So maybe they're thinking, okay, this is one way that I can affect it now that we're talking about race so much. And, we're doing these things just like the Redskins after all these years. The Washington Redskins in the NFL, all these years, finally changed their name. Now it's Washington football team until like a year or two from now. But it's sad. But I think if you just took away everything that has like racist ideologies, we wouldn't have any identity in this country. Sad to say, it's because this country's built on racism. I mean, we always talk about like the White House, slaves building that. It's rooted in everything, really. But what are your thoughts on it?
So it goes two ways, just like you said. So in the positive note, it's good that these big corporations, who technically don't need to care, are actually caring about their viewers to the point where they're trying to educate them on understanding that, we have different ethnicities, we have different cultures, and we have different groups of people that basically make the United States of America the United States of America. I just like how it kind of puts that in the spotlight, but I don't like how it's basically forcing households to make that a combination. Like, with that said, Peter Pan, Dumbo, these are like fairy tales. These are like the root of Disney, and I feel like these kids, these are children. Let them grow up. Let them make that decision on themselves, like on their own. Make them put them in a position where they could watch these things. They could appreciate these things, and as they get older, if they want to make the difference, or if they want to channel it somewhere else, they'll be open to be able to do it. But basically, forcing something on a kid like that, I feel is just it's not needed in certain circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I kind of agree with it because I feel like when you're that age, you are kind of finding yourself. You're figuring out the world, just like what we said on our last episode, where we were basically speaking on babies and everything like that. It's important to allow a kid to be a kid,
Mm-hmm.
but it's also important for that kid to understand the world around them.
So
So
what's wrong and offensive?
So, yeah, so I kind of agree with it, and I don't, but I'll go with it because things need to be regulated. People need to respect other people, especially their cultures, where they come from, their backgrounds, and I feel like it's a start. It's not a conclusion, but it's definitely a start.
Yeah, and before we go to the next topic, I just want to say one thing my friend brought to my attention was that it's only for the viewers that are beneath 7 years old. So it's not like in general they're taking away these things. So that's interesting too, because
Exactly.
that's smart because it's like adults we already know what it is. You can take away as many things as you want. We're gonna know what it originally said or stood on. So I find that
Right.
interesting.
So the next topic I have here is basically a 38-year-old mother from Utah died 4 days after taking her second dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. So my question is it still worth it? Do you want to hit the brakes or do you want to carry on from that?
We can hit the brakes. I think it's definitely still worth it. There's been multiple links that say the deaths are not related to the COVID vaccine, but I think it's just in this scenario, a lot of people are scared of it, and rightfully so. I mean, we always talk about the Tuskegee thing and all that. But the fact that the scientists are saying that there's no link to it, I'm trusting that because they keep saying that over and over again. And there's a lot of underlying conditions people have, certain things medically about them that make them more susceptible to death. And then just those other things that I was talking about, I think on the last episode where I say like, staying up and keep taking your multivitamins, keeping your vitamin C up, staying
Yeah.
active, doing things that make it so you're not likely to die from COVID if you catch it. I mean, so that way you're less likely to die. And also you're less likely to have a reaction to the vaccine. The typical symptoms everyone's having the sore arm, like people get from the flu shot, and so sometimes people feel fatigued, but even so, that wears off after a couple of days. So I think people take the deaths and they think, oh, they go extreme and say it's because of the vaccine when there's so
Yeah.
many other factors. Any scientist will tell you most things don't happen in a vacuum. Like there's many factors that affect different things. But yeah, that's what I think about it. What about you?
I definitely agree with what you're saying in regards to it. I just want to add that I definitely feel like it's worth it for the individuals who are considering it, but it's science. So at the end of the day, you're gonna have your side effects. You're gonna have things. Things are gonna go wrong sometimes, and unfortunately, it did happen to this 38-year-old mother. Um, but moving forward, it puts us in a position to kind of go back to the drawing board and explore the options a little bit more. So as you know, we've been excited to come up with these vaccines. We've been excited to get back outside, get back to normal. And in that process, it's easy to miss certain things. So, like I said, it's unfortunate that she died. May her soul rest in peace. But it definitely puts us in a position to make that vaccine a little bit stronger, make it a little bit better, and give everyone that guarantee, like a bigger guarantee. Like this happened. It's unfortunate, but moving forward, this is what we're gonna do to make sure it doesn't happen to someone else.
All right.
Or moving forward, this is what we're gonna do to make sure that we do get back to normal, and everyone has nothing to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's basically what I wanted to add for it. And yeah, like you said, I don't. Anyone who's viewing this, I don't want you guys to feel like I was gonna get a second vaccine and now I'm afraid now. Just like anything else that occurs, just like any other vaccine that has come out, we're gonna have the flaws. We're gonna have the things that are wrong with it. But yeah, don't make that be a reason why you don't get vaccinated or you don't move forward with your life. You know?
All right.
So yeah, that's what I'm gonna add to it. And so for the next topic, we have with all the new negatives going on in the world, should kids be forced to take mental health courses in high school? Do you want to hit the brakes or you want to carry on from that?
We get the breaks. I think kids definitely should be forced to take mental health courses just because I think the world struggles with empathy. Well, not necessarily the world. I would just say humanity. Humans struggle with empathizing with other people, and so therefore, if you're not understanding what it's like to be in someone's shoes, how are you going to feel sorry for them? Some people can. I mean, I've considered myself in that category, but not everyone's like that. It just comes down to like if you're not going to go through something, if you haven't been through something, then you just have to take what people's word was, what how you were raised, the things your parents taught you of how to feel sorry for someone, how to understand what someone's going through, so that way you're not insensitive to their pain. And I think even before the pandemic, this should have been a thing. Obviously, the pandemic's been taking a toll on a lot of people's mental health, but it's something that I think if the world had more empathy, it would be a better place. I think that's just one of many topics though, like everyone should take, such as like sociology, taxes, credit, stuff like that. Those are things that should be mandatory that aren't. But yeah, that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, so my thoughts on it are basically the same. But I just want to add that before the pandemic, we had many issues going on. We had a lot of kids that were unfortunately taking their lives because they weren't getting that attention from while they're at home, and there was a lot going on in regards to like cell phones and its effect on teenagers and everything like that. But I feel like just like anyone will probably agree to it. Teenagers spend more time at school than anywhere else. So even now, we're doing the homeschooling thing because of the pandemic. They're still spending a majority of their time in front of their laptops. They're not socializing with one another. It's most likely like direct contact with the teacher at all times, and then you log off the computer, and then you're back to family time. So if there was at least one course that they could take, even right now during this pandemic, um, where they could virtually have that one-on-one with their teacher, where the teacher goes through the entire. I mean, depending on the class size, I get that. Like, go through the entire list, have the kid express themselves. Like, hey, how has the pandemic been for you? How has it affected you? How are you? Stuff like questions like that. They go a long way, even though you might not feel like it does. It actually does because it gives someone an opportunity to stop and think, because that's first of all that's what any teenager is going to do. They're going to stop, they're going to think, and they're going to answer the question. And while they're answering the question, they could actually figure out something new about themselves while they're doing that. And like I said, a lot of people might feel like this is something that's very light, but this is something that could potentially save a life, and it could potentially make a kid that's going to school appreciate the opportunity to go to school, and also figure out what they really want to do in society. So just to brush up on that, like you might remember just as much as I do. Growing up, we had Ms. Wright, and we did have a health class that was kind of similar to like a mental health kind of class. The way that the environment that Ms. Wright created was an environment where if you came into the classroom, you would have to expect to learn something new about whether it's sex ed or whatever it is. You're going to learn something new. She's going to make sure everyone in the classroom understands the risks that can come from having sex, or the benefits from it, or what to expect moving forward if you happen to step into that lifestyle.
Yeah.
Or what you can generally expect, as like becoming an adult. I was in one of her classes, and she would speak on like germs and things like that, and she would really emphasize it, and she would really make sure everyone understands what she's trying to say. And then she would go around the classroom and then make sure everyone absorbed what she was trying to say and understood how important it was to their actual life and their well-being. So if we have classes that are like hands-on like that, especially now in the virtual environment, like I feel like it will really go far. And another thing, like these kids are in these virtual environments now. Like I said, they log off the computer, or even when they're on, they're contacting directly to their professor or their teacher, I should say. They're not really communicating with anyone their age, and then if they are, it's via text, like when they get off, or a FaceTime call, which is not the same as seeing someone in person and having that conversation.
Yeah.
So I feel like it would really go a long way for these kids.
I agree.
So for the next topic that we have here, was Oklahoma State right for passing a law that grants immunity for anyone who unintentionally runs protesters over? You want to hit the brakes, or you want to carry on from that?
I'm gonna hit the brakes. I think it's more of the same. We've seen this before, and we already know. Let them run over some black protesters. It's gonna be unintentional. let them wonder white protesters is going to be intentional. So we already know it's going to be a double standard with that, unfortunately, and because it just creates a gray area of who meant it, who didn't mean it, and what the protest cause was for, and all that. So I'm already just feeling sad for the people who will die and not get justice, whose families will not get justice for their loved ones dying in this case. What do you think about it, though?
I felt the same way. It's unfortunate that we still have laws like this that are being allowed to pass. It's like back in the day when women didn't have the same rights as men. It's weird. We're all here to contribute to society. What do you mean? What do you mean my wife can't drive her car?
Yeah.
What do you mean she can't work in the same place I could work?
Or she can't vote.
Like it goes hand. Yeah, it goes hand in hand. It's like are we really putting the resources towards passing laws that make sense and are going to impact society in a positive way and help us move on from like the Trump era or like even the negative eras before that? Or are we going to put the time and resources into actually applying laws that make sense to individuals? If anyone's at a protest, just like the Black Lives Matter protest that happened, um, you're there for a reason. You're not there to waste time. You're there because you want to see something change.
You feel
So
strongly.
if the change that you yeah, so if the change that you see from spending your time in that protest is basically saying if a madman wants to go into his car and run through a crowd of people who are trying to make a change and get immunity from that because they could just grab a lawyer and say, hey, I felt like I was in danger because these people were making a lot of noise outside on the main road I travel through every day. So I decided to run them over. If
Hmm.
they could literally do that and then get off of that, and then all these people who lost their lives because they were fighting for a cause don't get any justice, to me that's a ridiculous law that got passed in
Yep.
2021.
Just
And
like, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I feel no, go ahead, go ahead.
No, you can go. You weren't done.
So I just feel like it just doesn't make any sense. It's like, and it just shouldn't be happening.
Totally agree.
I'm gonna add to it.
I was just gonna say, just like DeSantis, I think it was early in the pandemic where he was like, he made a law that said, well, he tried to get it passed. I don't know if it got passed, where it said if you see someone looting, you can shoot and kill them. Like I said, that's like telling us how to react to Black Death, which is so normalized, unfortunately. I'm not saying looting is right. I personally wouldn't partake in that, but I don't. I can understand why people do that because it's like, how many times are we going to get killed and the person get away with it? But to make a law where you're saying you can shoot and kill these people, that's just terrible. And then also that double standard, like what came out after Trayvon Martin was killed in 2012, with that mother, in the same state, stand your ground rule laws. She's in prison for, I think she's still serving a sentence. She might be away for life. Where she did the same thing. Like someone literally broke in her house and she shot. I don't know if she killed him, but the same thing that they said George Zimmerman was doing, an off-duty
Yeah,
neighborhood patrolman. It was okay when he did it, but not her. So we already know there's going to be many double standards within the law.
yeah. I feel like that's just in human nature to have those double standards.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so for our next topic, it's going to be the what in the world topic. Uh, so Texas opened back up 100%. Was this a smart move to make or a ticking time bomb?
It was not smart. It was as dumb as Kel and Keenan and Kel, to be honest with you. Why would you open a state up 100%? Like, we as a nation, nobody wants to be in a pandemic, but we're in a pandemic. So we have to work together to slowly get back to normalcy so we can sustain normalcy. But for Texas to just be like, oh, whatever, everything's open back up. If you get it, you get it. You die, you die. That's just so terrible and inconsiderate because that's going to slow the process, because there's going to be some people that are antsy already for being in a pandemic for so long that are going to be like, oh, I'm going to book my ticket now to go to Austin for a week. And then they're going to bring that back to New Jersey or wherever they're from. And then that's going to start another spread. Now, granted, there's going to be more people vaccinated, but still, even a little bit of spread, even one more life lost unnecessarily is a bad thing. So doing this is terrible, and I've said this to other people before as well. I feel as though this is just revenge to get back at the fact that there's a Democratic president in the White House and a blue Senate as well. I think it's just like to be contrary and to rebel against that. So it's saying, I'm going to take things into my own hand. And unfortunately, the federal government can only do but so much in this instance. It's down to the states.
Yeah, that's true. And so just to add to that, yeah, definitely, it definitely is a ticking time bomb. and it's only human nature to go where it feels normal. Just like how people like when it starts snowing in Jersey, or when it as soon as it hits winter, you have those people who go straight to Florida
Mm-hmm.
because it doesn't hurt. It's human nature to want to feel normal, or to not have to worry about the stress that comes with, for example, like snow, the cold weather, everything that changes around that time or in that season. So for for Texas to basically open back up 100%, it's like it's a slap in the face to everyone else. It's like we didn't go through anything at all. People didn't lose their lives. It's just everything that happened because of this whole COVID-19 pandemic. Everything that happened is something that we all went through together. So for these guys to just feel like, hey, we're gonna open, we're gonna just have life go back to normal. It's crazy, and I feel like I feel like the a president should definitely have a hand in that. Like I feel like that. I feel like
I
the
wish.
like Washington should definitely step in. Yeah, like Washington should step in and shut these kind of things down. You know, because these governors, the government just feels like they could just do whatever. You know, they're looking at the spreadsheets, they're looking at everything. They're seeing that certain businesses aren't bringing in as much cash flow as they were before.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I get that 100%. But that's why we have the aid, we have everything that's basically put in there to help out in certain situations like this. Um, so for Texas doing what they did is gonna, I feel like it could potentially start another pandemic, like a pandemic part two, and I feel like it could definitely be a lot worse because not only not only do we have people that are in the U.S., but we have people from like other countries that actually do want to visit one of the 50 states,
Mm-hmm.
and they're gonna see that hey, Texas is back 100%. You know, we're over here in Greece, and we're masked up, and we're on lockdown or whatever. Let's head to Texas. Let's actually feel normal again.
Right.
Um, so that being said, it's just a matter of time before this backfires, and I feel like someone in Washington, someone in the Senate needs to step up to the plate and actually say something.
Yeah, the only thing about that is that their hands are tied. Like, because I was looking it up, and it came out actually when it came down to the mandate, and I think Biden even spoke on it. Where like in certain things, like the federal government can't get involved, and this is one of those things because when it came down to the mask mandate, they can only speak on like national properties, like national properties, whether it's the capitals in all 50 states. You can only, in federal buildings, you can require a mask mandate, but they can't really speak on each individual state's, nation, like statewide, their mandates. So this is one of those things where it's just unfortunate where the federal is separate from the state. Because I think Biden's been very straightforward with everything he's been doing. He's been getting stuff done. I think if he could, he would have shut that down instantly. But the governor in Texas is just being an idiot. Like he was announcing it like he was gonna announce something like on a reality TV show, like big news, 15 minutes, guys, stay tuned. Like people are gonna die. Like why are you even doing this? But yeah, that's where we're at with it.
Yeah, it is what it is. Interesting. I didn't know that part. Um, so for the next segment, we have the hear me out topics. So for my topic, was it right for Prince Harry to break a tradition of secrecy, or was he right to vent to Oprah? Now, I feel like he was definitely right to vent to
Me
Oprah.
too.
I mean, it's a whole new era. It's a whole new generation. We do things different, and you know, growing up, I'm pretty sure that he definitely heard a lot of secrets. He heard there were a lot of things that he didn't really agree with. I mean, it's obvious that he didn't agree with a lot of things, um, but he definitely wanted to be a little. He definitely wanted to be different once he found himself. And for him to basically do what he did and go against like the Queen, everything that they basically believe in, was huge. And I give him respect for that because the entire time since he got married, it's been an issue.
And
And
we know why.
and also yeah, and also the entire time he's been fighting for what he believes in. He's been trying to find happiness um, away from being in England, and I feel like his entire. I feel like this man has really like he's been traveling to find himself away from their beliefs or like things that his mother would tell him or anyone would basically tell him, and for him to so basically the queen is upset because she's from back in the day like that that generation that believes in the culture, that believes that we have to follow a book, and even if we don't agree with what the book says, we're still going to do what it says.
Mm-hmm.
So you already know what kind of generation that is. So for him to do that, it was definitely him putting his foot down, and it was definitely um, unraveling a new chapter for England, which I feel like they definitely need, because you know you have a group of individuals who are seeing the normal day to day prince, prince and queen, etc. And just like it's human nature to want a difference, to want to change. So I feel like what he did was definitely right for what he's trying to head into.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Like you said, just being from a different generation, that's where their head is at, and especially with the Queen. I didn't see the entire interview, but the parts that I did see, I was just like, all right, he definitely. I mean, I didn't see his part. I saw Megan's part. Now, him even marrying a woman who has 1% of black in her was already going to be an issue for people who are like stuck to tradition. But he stood by his woman, and that's a beautiful thing to see because he didn't care. I think we need more people that are willing to go against tradition and status quo. That's the only reason that change. That's the only way that change can happen. And I think he was right to vent. You got to put it all out there. People got to live their truth. What's the point in keep and not living my truth that way I can make some other people happy that don't even know me? Nah, I would do the same thing as him if I were in his shoes.
Yeah, and it's literally the same as like the biracial couples that we have.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause once upon a time, it's like if you were an African American male, you had no business being around a white female.
Right.
So, same thing, same concept.
Yep. And I think I wish there were. I always say this, but I wish there were more towns, South Orange and Maplewood, just because it's so common. Like race is the last thing on your mind when you're when you're trying to find someone, you're trying to date. Like if you vibe with a person, you find them attractive, that's what gets precedent. I mean, not precedent. That's what's priority. And not like, oh, they're this color. Mom and dad's not gonna like this, or I don't like this because people gonna think this about me. Like you don't care. Like you can literally walk from where I live to the village, and chances are you're going to see at least one interracial couple. Like that's just how it is here.
Yeah, that is.
But yeah, so for my topic, I wanted to talk about something I put on my Instagram this week, and it's the concept of trusting first versus trusting later. So I guess I want to start by asking you: would you say you have the tendency to trust people until they give you a reason not to, or would you say you don't trust people until they give you a reason to trust them?
What I do, I basically give people the benefit of the doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I feel like it's kind of you're doing yourself a favor to trust later rather than trusting sooner, because as you know, people are very quick to like switch up, and like I said, you get in the benefit of the doubt. If you had a past that wasn't really the best, I feel like it's important to listen to everything a new person has to say, and I definitely feel like it's important to give them a chance to prove themselves before you put them into certain stereotypes.
Yeah.
Or if you factor them into situations that you experience um, in the past.
Right.
So moving forward, it's important to kind of let them tell their story. You narrate it. You fix it however you want to fix it, and then give yourself a list of reasons why you should trust someone, or why you should be willing to take things to the next level, whether it's a relationship, a friendship, whatever it is. Because not only are you protecting yourself, but you're also letting that person see like how serious you are and how much you want it. Because if someone sees that, it's going to make them try 10 times harder um, to basically let you know and let you understand who they are as a person.
Right.
Like if I had a, for example, like if I had a friend, if I just met someone and we could potentially become friends, or like very close friends, I would want to know like the background. I would want to know like, why should I give you my time, or why should I start going out to different places with you, or even like potentially letting you in on secrets, or letting you in on things that happened in the past with my family.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, definitely, I feel like it's definitely important to trust later.
Right. I'd say I've had the tendency in my life to trust first as opposed to later. I wouldn't say one is right and the other is wrong. But I think for me, it 100% depends on the person. Like, and I also put this in my story how like for some of us, like when we first meet someone, we get a good vibe from them, and we go with that vibe. And so we build a soft spot for them instantly just because of that vibe we get from them. But then other people, they move sus. So we're like, like I'm gonna wait until you give me the reassurance I need to trust you. And that's fine too. Um, I think with my personal life, the things I've went through, I have no business trusting anyone from the beginning anymore. But on that same token, I still will because I can catch a vibe. And I think that's part of the natural human experience where it's like, you may want to put this wall up where you're guarded and careful so that way you don't get hurt and disappointed. But against your better judgment at the times, if somebody gives you a really good vibe that seems genuine and authentic, you're going to be like, I have a soft spot for them instantly. And just go back on what you said, like I want to emphasize that too. I was going to say that as well, where it's not just like romantic, like it could be a friend, a coworker, employer, neighbor, anything. Like I feel like where you need to go off of a vibe, that's okay. But if you need to protect yourself and be extra cautious, that's okay too. I don't think either one is right or wrong. But as a general rule of thumb, I would say trust later, just to take that, give yourself that extra layer of protection. I agree with you on that for sure. But yeah, that's all I have to say on that.
Yeah, and what you like, just to brush up on what you just said, like coworker is a perfect example. You get like say for instance, you have an office job, you get a brand new manager. You're gonna want to trust that manager later rather than sooner, because if it's his manager's first day and he's like, hey, so let me know who in this office is gonna give me a hard time, and then he like chuckles or whatever, and you let that manager know who's gonna give him the hardest time, and then he starts treating that person a little differently, or giving that person hell basically.
Fire
Yeah, there are ways to raise your hand or be a whistleblower, but at the end of the day, it's like I've trusted this person so soon, and look at the effect that it had. Versus new manager, let me see his let me see his style of management. Let me see like what triggers him, what doesn't, etc. Let me figure this person out a little bit more, rather than sooner, and see where it takes me. It's gonna be a whole different process. So yeah, that's literally the perfect example of that, because I'm sure we've all had our experiences with managers that we trusted sooner than later.
Yep.
That's what I want to add to that.
Totally agree. So we thank you for joining us, season 2, episode 8 of the What You're Thinking podcast. I'm Eric.
Vince.
And we'll see you next week with more fun topics.